everyone, today we're going to learn about circuits. Circuits are pathways that electric currents can flow through. We learned about electric currents last week using Ohm's law, where we learned about these three words: current, voltage, and resistance. Now we're going to put those into a picture called a circuit. So the circuit is this picture, this pathway that the electrons are going to flow through from something like a battery to a lamp. Now we're going to use these symbols in our pictures. For current, we're going to draw an arrow showing which way the pathway is going. For voltage, you're just going to have two different size lines symbolizing something like a battery. And for resistance, you're just going to have these little mountains. It's going to symbolize something like a lamp. Okay, we're still going to use the same equation from last week. Ohm's law states that current equals voltage divided by resistance, our little helpful triangle in case you need it. And just to refresh your memory, what do we measure each thing in? Current is measured in amps, voltage is measured in volts, and resistance is measured in ohms. There are two different types of circuits you're going to learn about. The first is called a series circuit. In a series circuit, electrons flow in the same direction along a single path. You can see my picture here. We have one voltage and we have two resistance, but it is along a single pathway. So we're going to be looking for I here. I'm going to just draw you a little arrow. We are looking for what is I. Now, I like to organize myself before I start solving. I do not know what I is, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a question mark. Now I'm looking for V. What is going to be my volts? It's going to be 12, 2, or 4. See here, this has a V. So 12V, that's going to be my volts. And now resistance. We have a 2 and we have a 4. What you want to do in a series circuit is add these together. 2 plus 4 equals 6, and our unit is ohms. Okay, now that we have our symbols, we are ready to solve for the equation. If we are solving for letter I, we go back to our chart here. Cover up the I. We're going to do V divided by R. So I equals V over R. We know that our V is 12. And we know that our R is 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And if you forgot the units, go back to our chart. We're solving for I. We're measuring that in amps. So our unit will be letter A. So series circuits aren't too bad. It's pretty simple. Now we're going to move on to parallel circuits, which gets a little bit more difficult. In a parallel circuit, electrons can flow in more than one direction along multiple pathways. So you can see here, this picture looks very similar to the one that we just did. I'm going to try to get them close together so you can see. That's what we just did. We had 12V, 2 ohms and 4 ohms. Okay, now we still have 12V, 2 ohms and 4 ohms, but we're going to get a different answer for our letter I, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, that's because we have two pathways here. We're going to have to solve for I twice. So I'm going to start by getting myself organized. We're going to have an I1 and an I2 since we have two pathways. We do not know what I is, so I'm going to put a question mark next to each of those. We can see from our picture here, 12V is going to be our volts. And no matter which pathway we take, we're still using 12V. So I'm going to put that on both sides. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. If you take this first pathway here, I'm going to mark this as I1. Okay, and I1's going to round about and go this way. Then we will have an R of 2 ohms. But if we take this pathway, this will be I2, which will round about and go this way. Then we would have an R of 4 ohms. Okay, now we're ready to solve, but this time we have to solve twice. So please be careful. We're going to start with I1. I1 equals, we know we're starting with V over R. We have 12 for our V, and we have 2 for our R. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And we know that our letter is going to be in A amps. Now I have to solve for I2. Same way. V over R. I also have 12 for V, but now I have a new R. Okay, now I have 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and our unit is amps. Now, how do we figure out the total I? If we have I1 and I2, it's very easy. We're just going to add those together. I1 plus I2 will give us our answer, and that's going to be 6A plus 3A, which will give us 9A as our final answer.